It may have been a cold, damp London evening, but it was a warm reception at the Royal Society for the 8th Annual Evangelical Alliance Temple Address. Guests and dignitaries from a wide spectrum of the church and civil society met to hear about the Alliance's new campaign, Don't Be a Stranger, looking at how Christians should respond to migrants living in the UK. The Archbishop of York, Dr. John Sentamu, spoke at length on how the church should be taking the lead in welcoming, encouraging and providing for migrants in our midst.
Tell me, please, raise your hand. When did you ever hear regularly on our media the word mercy? Those of you who are honest, put up your hand. It doesn't. And yet, that's the very heart of God. That's the very heart of our faith. That's the very foundation on which this nation has been built. Yet, in our modern usage, mercy is often associated with weakness. You are being weak to be merciful. If you're tough, it shows you are very strong. But mercy is the very characteristic of neighbourliness. To be a good neighbour requires us both to show and to exercise mercy.
Dr. Sentamu also made a plea against rampant consumerism.
In the myriad of lessons which indeed stand to be learned from the recent economic crisis, one must surely be, what was the purpose of the wealth that was being generated during the recent decades beyond the increasingly rapacious consumerist appetite? Why were we creating this? For what purpose? For what end?
Mike Talbot, chair of the Evangelical Alliance's board, summed up the talk, providing a reflection on the key themes.
Many people are living here in Britain and even identify themselves as British, yet they do not feel as if they belong to our society. The Don't Be a Stranger campaign that the video referred to at the beginning of our evening aims to encourage the British public to welcome outsiders by telling positive stories of where migrants have been successfully welcomed to Britain. The campaign aims to both gather resources and make them available, whilst also galvanising people into action. Jesus doesn't ask us just to love those whom we would naturally share Christmas dinner with. Instead, he challenges us to look afresh at who our neighbours are and to welcome those we consider to be strangers. Inviting someone you don't know to your home for a meal is a great way to build community. And I would like, on behalf of the Alliance this evening, to call on everyone here, no matter what your background, to give it a try over this Advent, which begins in a few days' time, and particularly at Christmas.
And as we go now to our drinks and our food, mindful of those who have...
Speeches ended with a closing prayer from Bible Society's Director of Programme, Anne Holt.
And us in your service. In Jesus' name. Amen.
As the guests retired for drinks and canapes, there was an air of sober reflection, but positive affirmation. Empowered? Yes. Inspired? Most definitely.
I think we had just a fantastic speaker. Archbishop Sentamu is not only an engaging and challenging, prophetic, rugged character, but he actually deals with real issues.
He is someone who has no limits in his knowledge, in his intellect, in his ability to impress people, to impress the audience.
It was a brave and good and clear address, and the themes of justice and community and mercy are critically important, and critically important that we have to speak of them more rather than less at this moment.
I came as a refugee to this country over 40 years ago, so what the Archbishop was referring to in terms of mercy was shown to me personally at the immigration desk. And I love the word the Archbishop used. Mercy allowed me into this country.
We as churches do have a particularly important voice, and we must use it as he uses his, rebel or no rebel.
The thought of hospitality has really come home to me. The sense of trying to make space for people,
in my own life, and also to go into the spaces that other people occupy, to listen really and to make friends.
We've got to look at how we as church leaders can deal with our independent prejudice, whether it's intergenerational or whether it is based on color or culture, and say we are the church, we are one, and we have a responsibility to heal our nation, and we can only do that as we unite.
And this whole world needs to be working on a bigger picture, on a bigger vision than just let's amass this much wealth and surely everything then will be all right.
On display were portraits of some of the migrants involved in the Don't Be a Stranger campaign.
We live in a very visual age, and it's great to have opportunity to display pictures of people, real lives. Those are the kind of things that connect with our society.
Each portrait a person, each person a story, each story a starting point for engaging with those who've set up home here, and a challenge to make sure they're not left as strangers.